Because family violence is so endemic, some of you may find the next couple of hours distressing. I encourage you to take the time to look after yourself and each other. If at any stage any of you need to leave the room, by all means do so. There are telephone counselling services you can call for further support here, 1-800-RESPECT, Lifeline on 131114, and the Men's Referral Service on 1300 766 491. As the proverb goes, failure is an orphan. The success that is today the release of findings from Australia's first research into the prevalence of brain injury among both victims and perpetrators of family violence, that success has many parents. I'd like to thank Brain Injury Australia's consortium partners, Monash University, Domestic Violence Victoria, No to Violence and the Centre for Excellence in Child and Family Welfare, both for responding so quickly and positively to Brain Injury Australia's invitation and for their cooperation in completing the research in such a tight 5-month timeframe. I would also like to thank those who volunteered their time and expertise either in attending last August and October's workshops or an interview with the researchers. The ancestry of Brain Injury Australia's interests in family violence goes back further to 3 separate pieces of policy advice and public education work for the Australian government. Firstly, in victimisation, on the leading cause of death and disability in children who have been abused, inflicted traumatic brain injury, or TBI, a subgroup of which is sometimes referred to as shaken baby syndrome. Secondly, in perpetration, around half of those discharged from specialist rehabilitation following a TBI manifest what are called challenging behaviours, spanning chronic irritability, social, sometimes sexual disinhibition, and verbal, sometimes physical aggression. Stereotypically, Brain Injury Australia's constituents often complain about a radically shorter fuse. As many as 80% of adult prisoners report 1 or more head injuries with loss of consciousness. To say that there is an association between TBI, behavioural disability, and offending, sometimes violent offending, is now not only undeniable, but uncontroversial. Thirdly, in partnership with Sports Medicine Australia, Brain Injury Australia campaigns for public awareness about concussion, specifically the emerging evidence of an association between repeat concussions and disability, including the degenerative neurological disease known as chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE. On the face of it, these 3 pieces of work don't appear to obviously triangulate brain injury as the result of family violence. Nowadays, best practice return to sport only takes place after all the symptoms of a concussion have resolved. Victims of family violence seldom have the luxury of choosing when to return home. Where these 3 pieces of work do line up, though, is that hospitalisations for brain injury as a result of family violence, so comprehensively mapped and mined as part of this research, are bound to be just the tip of the iceberg. Every year in Australia, more than 3,000 people are hospitalised after being concussed just from playing sport. But triple that number won't seek medical attention, and as many as 10 times that number won't even report their concussion to teammates, coaches or family for fear of being removed from play. Brain Injury Australia's search for local research into family violence and brain injury, including research that would attempt to scope the iceberg below the waterline, for example, the numbers of women living with the cumulative effects of multiple mild TBIs. That search came up empty. Yet, a 2016 survey of 100 clients of 5 domestic violence shelters in the United States found 9 in every 10 reported a head injury with loss of consciousness from family violence, and of those, again 9 in every 10 reported, quote, too many head injuries to quantify. yet only 1 in every 5 ever sought medical attention. The immediate impetus for Brain Injury Australia's interest in family violence and brain injury was 2015's National Brain Injury Awareness Week. Brain Injury Australia sets the theme for each annual week. That week wouldn't have attracted the interest, wouldn't have generated the concern. Indeed, in my quiet moments, I'd like to think that Recommendation 171 of the Royal Commission into Family Violence, this research, the report, today, none of it would have come about without both the generosity and courage of a group of women who shared with Brain Injury Australia their stories of severe traumatic brain injury, the result of family violence. One of them is here today, Ange Barker, who spoke at the national launch of 2015's Brain Injury Awareness Week in Geelong. Rosanna Robertson, Tony Wright, Rebecca Scaroli also shared their stories. Because Brain Injury Australia endeavours to always give pride of place on days like today to the lived experience of brain injury, I thought the best place to start is with Tony and Rebecca, who appeared on ABC TV's 7:30 report in August 2015.
When we talk about acquired brain injury, what usually comes to mind is a car accident or a sport in the field incident, or even a couple of blokes in a drunken fight on a Friday night. But in an average week in Australia, 3 women are hospitalised with traumatic brain injury caused by family violence. There are other cases that go unreported or undiagnosed. Some women are hurt in a one-off attack, and others suffer the cumulative effect of months or years of blows to the head. An advocacy group, Brain Injury Australia, is calling for extra support for these hidden victims. Tracy Bowden.
This fire was taken at the house.
At the old house, I know. But I don't like it because it's from the old house where I was attacked.
Yeah.
It sure does, darling. It's changed me big time. It's changed my life. It's changed who I am and what I was. I know I'm a bit slut and I get upset and it hurts me when other people can see it and how I talk.
Tony Wright's brain damage is the direct result of a vicious attack in her own home.
He was kicking me in the head. I had a big gash down my head and my face was busted all up on this side. So I was in a mess and I had my grandson with me.
But this was no random crime. Tony's attacker was her daughter's ex-boyfriend.
He just thought by being violent towards us that he was going to get her back, but I wasn't going to let him come back and take over, because that's how I am. I'm her mum.
Tanita rang us at midnight and said that Mum was in hospital, and it was quite a shock for us to come in and see Sister. But she's here with us now.
And, you know, I just feel so sorry for any women who would have gone through what I've been through.
Tony Wright's family is now caring for a very different woman.
She was fiery, she was quick, come back quick, and she never took nothing from anyone. But now it's all changed. She used to be my protector sometimes, but now we're protecting her.
I've seen her work 2 jobs pretty much my whole life. And just to see that I've taken the role basically of the parent and doing whatever I was supposed to do, it does hurt me a bit, but I'm forever grateful my mother is alive.
He was
These women now recognise others in their community who are living with brain injury caused by an all too common crime.
We see a lot of our women.
It's the first place that the man will attack, is the face, is the head.
This here.
There's good evidence that, from studies that we conducted in multiple jurisdictions, that the hospitalisation rate for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women with head injury due to assault is 70 times than non-Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women.
And what's the other thing we can use to help us in terms of reminding us during the week to remember things?
On my calendar.
Yeah, what else?
And in my little diary book. Oh, my phone.
And we like the phone because it's got a little...
It's got a big beep.
That's right.
2 years since her attack, Toni Wright still needs regular occupational therapy, and she's not alone. The support group Brain Injury Australia is calling for a greater focus on finding and helping the victims of family violence.
So I can remember.
3 women are hospitalised each and every week in this country with a traumatic brain injury the result of an assault by her partner or ex-partner. There is really good brain injury rehabilitation nationwide for the more severe end of the brain injury spectrum. There also needs to be matching services for those women who are living with the cumulative effects of many assaults to their head.
And what you can see here is there's these little white dots at the front here which indicate that the patient suffered an injury to the brain, and these white dots are bruising or what we call contusions to the brain.
Neurosurgeon Dr. Richard Parkinson believes many women who've suffered head injuries don't go to hospital, but live with the consequences.
Brain injuries cause commonly problems with executive function such as planning, forethought, memory, emotional control. That can have knock-on effects with your children, with your relationships, and with your ability to get out of that relationship if it's an abusive one.
I can close my hand on something, but it's harder to open because the messages to open my hand are confused, and that's what causes the spasticity.
Rebecca Scaroli has been living with traumatic brain injury for 17 years. She still doesn't understand why her stepfather attacked her with a hammer.
I felt these thumps on my head, and he kept hitting. I had my hands over my head, and I was screaming, why? Why are you doing this to me? And he kept hitting me until I went unconscious. Basically, my skull was shattered and all the little shards were in this section of my brain, embedded.
Because you don't have to be really accurate. Just express yourself. Anything that's in your head, I'd love to see it.
I'll have a think about that.
Sure.
Before the attack, Rebecca had graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree with honours. She now teaches art to people with disabilities.
Good. Oh wow, Glenda, this is looking fantastic.
I've come to terms with what's happened to me personally, but I'm angry at the fact that this kind of violence exists, that some men think that they have the right to make this decision to be violent.
This is a really important issue, and I think, if people can be made aware of how bad it is to hit somebody in the head, it's not like a cartoon where people will just get up and, be a bit dizzy and then they may go on their merry way. Every time you lose consciousness, you've suffered a permanent head injury.
If you can stop it and get away, you get away. Because it's not nice having a brain injury.
Tracy Bowden reporting.
Brain Injury Australia is honoured that 2015's Australian of the Year, Rosie Batty, accepted its invitation to officially launch this report. Not only that, but she also, as chair of the Victorian Government's Victim Survivor Advisory Council, not only rescheduled but relocated the council's meeting so that its members could attend here today.